What's up everyone, I want to talk about Natsuki Misaka, cause this is a character that, despite being introduced only a couple of chapters ago, plays a very unique role within the narrative of Kagurabachi. It might be too early to know for sure, but what is certain is that Natsuki has been set up with a backstory that tells us everything we need to know to understand what drives his character and what he stands for. He also seems to share really fun dynamics with both established and newly introduced characters. Well, fun for us readers because he probably wouldn't agree. But moving on, Natsuki being the younger brother of a former Enchanted Blade wielder immediately has the bones to make him a pretty interesting character by itself. It's his history with his brother Ibuki, his rivalry with Uruha, and how that plays into his fight against Hokuto what elevates him and has made him so fun to see in recent chapters. Natsuki was the younger brother of the former wielder of Cloud Gouger by 2 years. Before the Seitei War during their teenage years, the brothers were an undefeated duo in their hometown. During the war, Natsuki joined the battlefield, and with Ibuki wielding his Enchanted Blade, they were invincible. Everything changed when Uruha was selected over him by Kunishige to wield Kumeyuri, the last blade handed out besides the Magatsumi. That's how it goes. In this world, even the slightest weakness can spell defeat. That's what Ibuki Misaka told his younger brother after he wasn't selected, and they then went their separate ways. After the war, Ibuki completely lost his will to fight, and the same day Kunishige was murdered at his home, Ibuki was also ambushed by the Hishaku. Tony Stark, Hokuto, was specifically the one sent to strike down the former sword-bearer, while his puppet sorcery was used to assist with Kunishige's assassination. The way Natsuki sees it, his older brother had become weak, so he was defeated. That's how it goes, right? It's not that he became resentful towards his older brother. We see Natsuki's reaction when he finds him dead. He even takes his brother's sword and becomes a dual wielder. And when the news gets to him that the Hishaku have invaded Kamunabi HQ, he thinks of when he and his brother were back in their heyday and is more than ready to pull up to the fight. Meanwhile, Hokuto on the other hand practically has to be convinced to join the assault on HQ with an enticing matchup, after not being satisfied with defeating a sword bearer that was merely a shell of his former self. Since he killed the older Misaka brother, Hokuto has been itching for a sword fight that allows him to go all out. As he says, his sword was designed for the thrill of deadly combat, and it will only truly blossom when he's tested to the max. So when he hears that Uruha's alive and at Kamunabi headquarters, dude gets hyped and instantly heads there, arriving in only a couple of minutes at most. And this immediately puts him and Natsuki in a collision course. But the interesting wrinkle is that Natsuki doesn't know that it was Hokuto who killed his brother. But when they finally clash, as Natsuki jumps in to defend Kiri, and then Hokuto teases him by saying he'll tell him who killed his brother if he beats him, a sense of anticipation and excitement really builds in a way that is rarely seen in a fight between two side characters when it's so soon after they're introduced. It's how Uruha is caught in the middle, and to a lesser degree how Kiri also plays into the whole dynamic, what makes the entire moment so engaging to watch unfold. Uruha is just 1 year younger than Natsuki, and when he was chosen as the right man to wield Kumeyuri, Natsuki grew bitter, and the fact that Uruha would not treat him like a superior only added fuel to the fire. Now, Hokuto had also told Natsuki that if it's the other way around and he were to beat him, then Natsuki had to tell him where Uruha was. When Natsuki asks why Uruha, Hokuto insists that it's because he's the master swordsman that can fulfill his desire for a proper duel. After 20 years, Natsuki's still being overlooked in favor of Uruha, which just makes his blood boil. Natsuki always despised the fact that Uruha would address him by just his first name. He never accepted that Uruha just viewed him as a contemporary and instead took it as him being cocky. And see, Kiri also calls Natsuki by his first name, but she just doesn't give a shit and seems to be equally brash with everyone, so it doesn't trigger him as much. It is funny though that she did spend some time being taken care of by Uruha as a kid, probably while her grandpa was too busy beating the Misaka brothers to a pulp. Back to Natsuki, dude isn't just a dual-wielding master swordsman, but a sorcerer as well. In fact, he's a lightning user, which is very interesting because if Ibuki had the same innate sorcery, which he probably did, then it's the first time we get an idea of how a sword-bearer's sorcery allowed them to be a perfect match with the blade they were selected to wield. It makes a lot of sense, but didn't have to exclusively be the case with each blade. Yeah, it's easy to see how Cloud Gouger's abilities could feel like second nature for someone like Ibuki Misaka, but when you look at Uruha's innate sorcery where he amps specific parts of his body before attacking, compared to Kumeyuri's more sensory-based powers, then you can deduce that how the swordsman's personality and character meshed with the blade must have also been just as much of a deciding factor for Kunishige when selecting the sword bearers. After telling him that it's a disgrace that he overlooks the master swordsman in front of him because he's too fixated on the big names of the past, Natsuki declares that Hokuto deserves to die and instantly gets active, even slicing through his armor with ease. When he then hit Hokuto with lightning menace after Kiri creates an opening, it's hard not to get hyped. And right when Natsuki's glad that Uruha died and is more than ready to prove himself, of course the ceiling breaks and Uruha falls through with Yura, prompting what is to me one of the funniest moments in the story so far. Dude, Natsuki is really a bona fide hater, but at the same time, as much as I like Uruha, when you know his story, you kinda get where the younger Misaka brother is coming from. Their whole thing is just hilarious because Uruha means no disrespect either. I mean, he even tells Natsuki that they can beat Hokuto and Yura together, after he calls him by his first name, right? But that's how you know that he does respect him. See, to me this again proves that Hokuzono really understands how to flesh out secondary characters, how to make them interact with each other, and what makes those interactions worth seeing. Look no further than how Natsuki and Uruha are able to operate as a tag team against two of the Hishaku's elite. I mean, credit to Hokuto for getting them riled up by straight up admitting that he was the one who killed Ibuki as well as Kunishige, which that second part is actually news to us readers. Even Yura's like, bro, what are you doing? He had already said that Uruha was too strong, and there goes Hokuto giving them even more reasons to go harder. Uruha slices off Hokuto's right arm using the Iai White Purity style, and Natsuki follows it up with his own strike, clashing with both Yura and Hokuto at the same time, and activates his lightning sorcery to take them through a wall. With Hokuto getting a chance to go one-on-one against Uruha, he proves himself as a counter-striker with precise timing and great coordination. Hokuto has no problem putting it all on the line, even welcoming his death. He's strong enough to wield his sword with his non-dominant hand and is able to get Uruha back, cutting off his thumb along with two other fingers. This whole fight is just gas because Uruha and Yura then bump into each other's backs, and Yura immediately tries to sneak him but fails. There, Natsuki sets his sights on Hokuto and calls him out for wanting to fight an Uruha that has spent his last 3 years chilling at a hot springs. And he pops off, letting go of one of his blades to distract Hokuto before slashing him across the torso with the other, hammering home the fact that he never stopped fighting. He never lost his edge. He's as sharp as ever, and it shows. What makes the whole sequence even better is that seeing Natsuki just awakens something in Uruha. For a second, Uruha reflects on everyone being prepared in peak shape except him. And then, the former prodigy, surrounded by master warriors, at the brink of death, his instincts came flooding back. Uruha really strikes the Batman pose before jumping after Yura, Hokuto, and Natsuki. He unsheaths his blade with his teeth. I guess it's a Kumeyuri wielder thing. Anyways, it looks like to me like he kinda bumps Natsuki out of the way, slashes Yura on the way down, and then barely gets Hokuto's left shoulder. I might be wrong, but it doesn't look like Uruha used his sorcery there. Either way, he's definitely in the zone now. Once they're all on their feet, Hokuto laughs like a maniac, just having the best time of his life, as Yura rolls up his sleeves. Which, yeah, it's probably time to get serious, cause I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Natsuki-Uruha duo has gotten the better of Yura and Hokuto so far. So something has to change for them quick, whether it's Hishaku finally pulling up again or Hokuto activating his puppet sorcery so they fight alongside him. We'll have to wait and see. I just don't think Natsuki and Uruha will be able to neutralize the threat here. Yeah, they put on an impressive showing, but the fight is far from over. At the time of this recording, it's tough to know where we go from here. Whether this 2v2 gets wrapped up in the next couple of chapters or we switch POVs is anyone's guess. I just hope the rest of the fight doesn't get off-screened, because I think that seeing these recently established dynamics between characters in terms of character writing has added a lot to the world of Kagurabachi as a whole. In less than a handful of chapters, Natsuki Misaka has already become a personal favorite of mine. He's not this obnoxious little brother who never amounted to anything because he felt like the world did him wrong. No, his bitterness and his feelings of being overlooked and underestimated is what drove him to become the lethal master swordsman he is today. The fate of his brother was like a cautionary tale for him that only reaffirmed he had developed the necessary mindset, and how Natsuki's performance pushes Uruha to be at his best really cements them as the best kind of rivals, all things considered. I just hope this is a duo that we get to see more of, and I can't help but wonder what else Hokuzono has in store for Natsuki. Given that he's also the commander of Togo's squad within the Kamunabi, and the closest thing we'll get to Ibuki Misaka in present day, I expect to see more of him as a recurring character in the following arc. But I guess only time will tell. What are your thoughts on Natsuki and his rivalry with Uruha? Has the fight against Hokuto and Yura met your expectations? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you watching and staying till the end of the video. Stick around. Much love and take care. Peace.